for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here. Jessica with her. I love it. The sparkling energy. Like you always have this energy.
Amen.
So like she was saying, I'm going to continue what she was saying about this month of Sivan, because I think if we're talking about women and leadership, we have to go deep into what Torah really meant when it was given to us women first. So let me ask you a question, and let's start with a question because I'm Jewish, so I have to ask a question first. If a beggar, right, a homeless person is in the street, and he just won, he got an inheritance of $10 million. Is this guy rich or not? Who says yes? He got it.
For a moment.
It's his. His grandfather, his father, his uncle gave him a $10 million.
Yes. No, it's who
How
you
much
are
is
and
in
what you
left?
have.
Why isn't he rich?
Because it's who you are and what you have.
It depends what he does with the money. If he keeps.
How much will it last?
Define rich.
That baby
What
he
rich?
didn't work, he has money.
If you don't claim it, if you don't claim it, it's not yours, right? You win the lottery and you lost the ticket. You're rich in potential, but potential is not actual. In Shavuot, we received this inheritance of 10 million and trillion and infinite millions of treasures. And not always we claim it. Not always we make it ours. So it is there in potential. We have a soul. We have a connection, but we didn't open the Wi-Fi. We didn't claim the prize. We didn't really get into the right symphony, right? We didn't really connect yet. So if you don't have the password of your Wi-Fi, it's there. You have a phone. There is a Wi-Fi to be connected to, but there's a password that's missing. In Shavuot, we got the Torah. We really received a beautiful treasure that is actually the contract of who we are and the marital contract, the ketubah of us and Hashem. It's like, imagine a guy that is planning for a month the proposal for his girlfriend, and he calls his friends and he calls her family and he takes a photographer and a beautiful venue and the candles and the petals and the whole things that I never had because I got married like a fiddler on the roof with a shidduch, so I didn't get that kind of proposal. I got another one. But the regular proposal, right? Now imagine the guy is like all excited and he doesn't even remember which pocket he put the ring because he's like so excited, right? And then finally, he takes out the ring, goes on one knee and says, "Would you marry me?" I don't know. What's in it for me? Wait, how much money do you have? What do I have to do? Where are we gonna live? Tell me, how many kids do you want? What kind of lifestyle you want to live? What would the guy do? He would feel so disappointed because what are these questions? This is not the moment for questions. Now you have to say yes if you really want to marry me. You don't ask about our marriage. You say yes, yes, and you hug him and you kiss him and the photographer and everyone's happy and relieved, and he's definitely relieved that she said yes, right? The famous she said yes. That is the Naaseh V'Nishma that we did in Har Sinai. That is exactly, we took on ourselves the job to be the wives of, it sounds weird, right? Like we're marrying God, like, you know, it doesn't really make sense even. But then we have to understand different things. So first of all, I want to take you to the beginning. In Egypt, okay, Egypt was the worst massacre ever, worse than the Holocaust. It lasted for 210 years. It was horrible, horrific. They would take nursing babies from their mothers and drown them in the Nile. They would massacre the man to hard labor. So much so that Amram, Moshe's father, left his home. He was a leader. He left his home, he left his wife, Yocheved, and separated from her. He left her. So all the men left their wives. Why? Because they didn't want to risk to have babies that would be massacred and Pharaoh to bathe in their blood. So he left, and everyone left. Little Miriam, 5-year-old, she told her father, "You are worse than Pharaoh because you are preventing a future. Pharaoh is massacring us in the present. But what do you know? You are actually calling out a lack of faith." So what would women do? And this is the feminine power. They would take copper mirrors. They would take copper, actually, the metal copper, and polish it until it became a mirror. Go out in the fields and make up and seduce their husbands so they would come home, even though they were broken, and women were also broken. They would come home and be intimate and then continue the Jewish life. Because women, we are the ones that hold that power. A man has the mitzvah to have children. We have also the means and the necessity. We need to have children because we want children, because we want to have family, because that is part of our DNA. It's just part of who we are. So when it says that in the merit of Jewish women, they were redeemed from Egypt, that's a huge statement. And this Egypt was so huge that the first commandment in the Torah says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am God your Lord, Asher hotzeticha me'eretz Mitzrayim u'mibeit avadim, that I took you out from Egypt and from the land, from the bondage of slavery. I mean, imagine, in the first commandment that God speaks, he talks about Egypt. Wow, and it's in the merit of women. Oh, now you're talking. This I like, because it's in the merit of women. What can we do with that statement? Because it's really big. It's a lot of responsibility. And the Arizal, the 16th century Kabbalist from Tzfat, said that this generation, we are a reincarnation of those women in Egypt. So those women in Egypt, why were they merited to see the redemption? Because they managed to bring back their husbands, to create a home, to create Jewish continuity, and to stand strong regardless of what was happening. Because you know what's the difference between Jewish heroines and the non-Jewish? We don't have a prince that kisses us so we can wake up to be, I don't know, in a ballroom like dancing. We don't have a godmother that just, turns her wand around and we become, there's a chariot or there's a, what's it called, a coach with beautiful dresses and, right, we're not Cinderella, and then we turn into pumpkins. We don't even have 7 dwarfs cleaning our house or preparing our things. We don't even have those birds that clean our house, unfortunately. I would love them, but we don't. And we don't have ugly beast that turns into a beautiful prince when we kiss them. We don't have all this. We have women that have suffered massacres, pogroms, infertility, hardship, everything. And yet they stood strong. It started with Chava, Eve, and it's today with all of you, with all of us. That's how our lineage goes. And it starts from the age of 3, Rivka, to the age of 130 and all the ages in between. Now when I tell you about the blessing, right? There are fathers that after candle lighting, they go and bless their daughters. Hashem, it should bless you like Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, yeah? Do you know how Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah looked or were? Why were we blessing our daughters to be like them? Sarah was infertile and there was a lot of idolatry and they had a very hard time. Rivka, she comes from a house of horrible paganism and also idolatry. She was a rose among thorns. She saved herself because her soul was so high. Leah, she was always crying. She had to marry Esav. Rachel, she was infertile. She had to give the honor to marry her beloved because she couldn't So why are we blessing our daughters with this? Because we're blessing our daughters to be heroines, to be like leaders, to be strong regardless of adversity. Because we're teaching our daughters that to be a good person, to be a leader, to move mountains to the point of redemption, doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your status. It doesn't even matter how you look. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It matters what you're made of, and that's what you said. What is here? What's your core? And you know when you know what you're made of? Not when the prince comes and kisses you, and not when everything looks beautiful, and not when life is easy. You know what you're made of when you're in adversity. When you're having a hard time, when you can't get pregnant, when you're fighting with your husband, maybe when you get divorced, maybe when you widow, maybe when your children go off the way, maybe when you have a child that decides to do something totally against your values, maybe when you are breaking in faith, maybe when you have lost everything, then you know what you're made of, because you know that string that holds you together, and you awaken to life. And that is what the Torah teaches when it teaches leadership. Because leadership, as opposed to what the Webster Dictionary says, it says a person that commands people so they follow him. Disagree. That's not Jewish leadership. We don't command, we teach, we educate. We try to create a community. A good, very good leader is the person that does and inspires change. If I can inspire many people, and many people, do write me, wow, you inspire me so much. Sometimes I take the time to tell them, now tell me when you've done something because you heard something that I said. Because the main thing, what I'm looking for in myself, first of all, is change. And we are very familiar with change. Come on, we're women. All we know is change. We're always changing. And I always have a joke that men like variety, right? They have this tendency. They like variety. What can you do? They get bored very easily. So we can become 6 women in one day. It just depends. You wake up and you're like kind of happy until you weigh yourself and you're really not happy. And then you drink your coffee and you're okay. Then you go shopping or meet a friend and then you're really okay, but he's already at work so he doesn't get to see it. And then when he comes at night, if you went to the gym or you had a good day or you shopped or the Amazon packages came when he wasn't home, so that's great. You sit to dinner, the kids behave, perfect. So now he has a whole variety of women in one. Now, when you get married, you're just praying that he's gonna change. That he just learns how to eat better, dress better, talk better, go better, sleep better. And all he does is stay the same. And all he prays is that you never change. And from the moment the wedding is over, all you do is change. Pregnancy, and then lactation, and then whatever, and then premenopause, and then menopause, and then after menopause, and then you go back because you thought it was menopause, but it wasn't, so that's how it goes, right? So we're always changing. And with this change, because we're compared to the moon, we bring novelty, we bring, and it's better, it's innovation, it's new, it's let's keep going. Because why? The feminine energy needs to be perfected. We walk in life looking what needs perfection. We can have a perfect home, but we're always going to find that maybe this gray is not the exact gray that I wanted. Let me see what I can do. Now your husband doesn't care about the gray. He can care less, but you're already going to the next shade and you change, and then the cushions, because that was already too light, so it needs something to enhance it, and that's how we go. Why? Because we want to move things. We want to create a movement. And that's what first leader, Chava, Eve, what did she do? Ladies, think about it. Garden of Eden, everything was perfect. 2 perfect human beings when they became 2. At first they were one, right? Hermaphrodite, androgynous being, back to back, man and woman. They were perfectly fusion. They were one person, but they felt alone. Adam said, well, excuse me, all the animals have a partner and I don't have anyone. So as the one time in creation that God said it's not good for man to be alone, let me make him a helper, a partner. against him if he doesn't behave. But no, it's really parallel. Yeah, well, the happy wife, happy life, I think it started from there, right? I think it started developing from there. But it was really parallel to him, eye to eye. So then there was the separation and they looked eye to eye and then the intimacy could start. But what really happened in the Garden of Eden before they became intimate? Chava was walking in the garden after Adam told her, listen, God told me that from all the trees of the garden we can eat, but from the tree of knowledge, good and bad, we shouldn't even touch. Mistake, number one. Because he actually changed a little bit the commandment. He wanted to be extra. He wanted to be like a chassid, you know? Like extra careful. And he told the woman, don't even touch it, when in reality it was, don't eat from it. So the snake, and this is what snakes do. And snakes, AKA, is the Sahara, it's the bad influence, it's that energy that we have inside of us that is looking for the extras, you know, like that gray area that, you know, maybe there's a crack that I can go in. That's the snake in our life. The snake, come here. You can touch it, nothing's gonna happen to you. It's like, no, I can't touch it. Yes, you can. No, I can't. Yes, you can. Come here and I'll show you. And he touched her. And the rest is history. In that moment, there was a sexual encounter. And what happened there? Chava tried something that was really good before time, but she actually had a choice. Because although they were perfect human beings and they didn't have an evil inclination, what happened? She wanted change. She wanted perfection. And she knew that what they came to do in the Garden of Eden was to perfect the world. There had to be a tikkun olam. So what is happening? Why would Hashem put the tree there if they weren't supposed to eat it? And what does the verse say? From all the trees you may eat, from the tree of knowledge, you shouldn't eat, because the day you eat, you may die. So that was already a hint that it was going to happen. Now Adam, in his masculine energy, he wanted everything to stay perfect. Garden of Eden, that's it, nirvana. We got home, all good. Don't touch anything, don't move anything, just keep calm. This is good, this is perfect. Like, just like that. And Chava is like, no, there must be something more here, right? Feminine energy, like, maybe something's fixing, I don't know. It's missing something. So she brought like something in her that what? Wanted perfection. Feminine energy wants to perfect the world. Masculine energy wants things to stay the way they are. Leader number 2, Sarah. What did Sarah do? She went with Abraham to all the endeavors. Guests, this, that, cooking, staying in the kitchen, doesn't matter. In the tent, washing the feet, all the shabam, yeah, of Sarah. What happened when Abraham slept with Agar? They had a son, Ishmael. She had Yitzchak, and there was a little rivalry there. She was saying that this guy Ishmael is pretty wacko. He was doing things that they shouldn't be done in her house. Who's the boss in the house? Really? Women. But Abraham was very against it. She said, get this kid out of my house. He's a bad influence for my child. I don't want him here. And he said, no, because Abraham is pure chesed, pure goodness and kindness. No, let's have him. It's my son. I can't throw him out. And it's true. I can understand that. I can understand why you don't want to throw a child out of your house, obviously. But you know what is one thing that you have to learn in leadership? That if you really want to be compassionate and you don't have strong boundaries, there's no compassion. You know why? You know why? Why? Anyone can tell me why?
You became enablers.
You become an enabler also. What do boundaries say? What yes is yes and what's no, it's no. Imagine you are in the busiest week of your work. You're doing your thesis at 40. I don't know, you're doing the bar mitzvah of your son, your whole family is coming, your mother-in-law is coming to stay in your house. I mean, one of the worst weeks, right? Yeah? What happens? They call you from school, they're like, and you are from the school committee, of course, because you do everything for everyone. And they tell you, listen, Jessica, because Jessica is the master of doing everything for everyone all the time. And so, listen, I need you to bake, because you're a great baker, 200 mini cheesecakes, because I heard your cheesecake is amazing. And she's like, sure. You know, when it comes out, like, sure, you know, like, oh, okay, and you're already seeing it in the picture, right? So you hang the phone and you're like, okay, how am I gonna bake it? When am I gonna, no, it's okay, it's gonna happen, all good, all good, all good, all good. And then you're baking the cheesecakes at 2 in the morning before the school project, and you're like, I hate cookie crumbs, and I hate all this butter, and who's gonna clean it, and why did I say yes, and I can't stand it, and this PTA, they should go out to I don't know where, and I can't stand. Nobody eats the cheesecakes. Why do they eat 200? Like, mothers are always on a diet. They're all gluten-free. Why should I bake, right? And you're like, right? It's going inside. That's resentment. There you have it. Lack of boundaries. You say yes because you think you're so kind. But then you were not kind to yourself. If you feel resentment, that's not chesed anymore. Chesed would have been saying, listen, I would love to help. Right now I'm having a very busy week, but in next projects, please count on me. Perfect. No problem. You're still a good person. You're still amazing. They're still gonna call you. And you can feel relaxed that you did at that moment what was good for everyone, really. Because giving it with resentment, I believe that when you cook, you put your energy in. Like, seriously. And it's no one wins from that. First of all, because they're going to be thrown at the end, because everybody's gluten-free for sure, and the kids are allergic anyways to milk, you know, in this generation, so who cares? But you know what I'm saying? So that was Sarah. Excuse me, Avram, although Sarah was Gevura, she was a woman, and women, we are very severe and kinds of disciplined, that's how we should be according to the tree of life, but we're not, because things have gotten messed up. But men, Avram was chesed, just give, without, no boundaries. No boundaries. When you don't have boundaries, there's no chesed. That's number one for good leadership and good motherhood. You say no. Yes, your child is going to scream, he's going to cry, he's almost going to die in the tree. Then an angel came and saved him, thank God. But what I'm saying is that you need to do what you need to do. And that's where the verse comes out. All what Sarah tells you, listen to her voice. I love that verse. I really love it. It's just that men should be sitting here to hear it, not you. Number 3, Rivka. Where does she come from? The house of idolatry. Like I said before, she's called a rose among thorns. She grew up in such paganism that it was a miracle that she came out. 3-year-old. She married Yitzchak, right? And she eventually had the twins, right? Esav and Yaakov. And what happened? She actually inverted the order, so whoever she wanted got the blessings first. And Yitzchak cannot do a lot about it. Rivka decided who's gonna get the blessing first. Because why? Because we are the leaders of our home. This is for someone who believes that in Judaism women are second-class citizens. Yeah, that we like. I heard once Rabbi Jacobson say that women make the big decisions and men make the small decisions. We decide where they're going to learn and everything. They decide on global warming, on economy, on politics. We decide on the day-to-day, which eventually becomes really life for everyone. Fast forward, we have Rachel and Leah, the way they gave all the blessings to each other. She gave the code that she had with Yaakov. After Yaakov worked for 14 years to get Rachel, at the end he got Leah. Leah was so afraid that she would marry Esav, the evil, so she actually was, Sarah was also kindness, so Rachel was really kindness, so she let her have the blessings, and so forth and so forth. But we come to all the others. Esther, she saved the Jewish people. She was a leader. Esther was having the hard conversations. That's what a leader does. She sits with her crew and says, we gotta fast. We gotta fast. Not you and me standing from the top. We have to fast. This is something that we have to decide together. Because a good leader says, we have a problem. We have an obstacle. We have people that need us. Give me ideas. What can we do better? What was your experience last time? Brainstorm. Do something. And have the hard conversation. If someone is not performing, you tell them with kindness, with boundaries. You tell them. You don't avoid it because they're going to get hurt and then your leadership is going to be like this. Because at the end of the day, we need to show up not only for us, not only to get a prize of a great leader, we have to work together. And that's what happened from Egypt until this very day. It's just that women, we have become very accustomed to be behind the scenes and behind the curtain and just push our men forward, which is great, because until now the male energy was necessary and that was the way the world was running. But ladies, this is changing. The feminine energy is rising and we have to stand up and we have to raise the bar and we have to really be the leaders of our life. And we have to know that regardless of where you're at, whether you're married or not, whether you're divorced, whether you're, I don't know what you want to call, wherever you are in your life with whatever monetary or whatever circumstance you're going through, in your little environment, you can make a difference. And not only you can make a difference and I'm letting you go, no, you have to make a difference. You have to wake up every day knowing that your life has purpose, but also you're on duty. We are the ones that have to change the world. If we are the reincarnation of Egypt, we are really in a very, very difficult time. I think the most that has ever been. Because everything that keeps society going is being questioned, and everything that has kept society alive and families and education is crumbling. So we have to decide and not only receive the Torah, we have to make it ours. Because the only way to keep this life going is if we make the base of our building stronger. And it starts with each one of us, with a mirror. Not with our partners, because one of the things leaders don't do, they don't blame. They don't look for who's guilty. Why is this happening? Because of the politicians, because of the economy, because of the education system, because of the rabbis, because of the rebbetzins, because of the kosher OU. I don't know. No one is guilty. We're all responsible, but there are no guilty people. Because the moment you blame, and this is what I always say, when you blame someone, 3 fingers are pointing at you. So it's, when something bothers you, look inside. We cannot sit idle. You know, like I tell many people that, especially in Israel, it's so easy to sit in front of the TV and say, oh, this Benjamin Netanyahu, he's doing a terrible job. And I tell people, you know, would you want to be in his position now? Like you go to Saudi Arabia, to Iran, and Iraq, and have some conversation with Biden, the cuckoo guy, you know, would you want to sit down with this guy? Like really, seriously, would you want to? No. No, to be in that position, to deal with Israel. Israel is the epicenter of the world. I mean, from that teeny country, all the decisions are made. It's funny, but it's not funny. So imagine if we would say, okay, you know the story of the starfish? So there was a family on vacation, and there was this little girl, she was 5-year-old, and she was at the shore of the sea, and she was throwing back the starfish to the sea. And the father is like, come on, we have to go. And she keeps on throwing and she doesn't stop. And the father says, honey, we have to go. And she's like, but I'm saving the starfish. And he's like, and there were thousands around her, right? And she's like, but I want to do it. And he said, but you can't save them. Look how many there are. And she's like, but the ones I am throwing, I am saving. So it's like, that is what we have to know. That we can save 5 starfish, that's great. 5 people we inspire to action, that's great. Because one of the things that we don't do is we go into victim mode. There's no victim mode. There's no time for that. That's it. It's over. We have to own our power. You know what happens with us women, really? You want me to tell you? You know how they say like women are afraid of the darkness and people attacking them and no. We're afraid of our power. We haven't unleashed our power yet. We really haven't. And I tell about myself, you know. Every time I think I have, Hashem sends me another slap and he's like, no, you haven't. Wake up and do more, right? And all of us in the same way. And our power means not in a, a demonstration or war or screaming or no. It could be in a very, very subtle, very elegant, very eloquent way that we say no. Have you ever had this thing with your child that you go down to his level, you look into his eyes and you tell him, I don't allow you to eat another can. Like this. And then they're like, they go to their room like shocked. Like, what happened to my crazy mom? She's talking calmly, right? Right? And all of a sudden, like, you don't have to say anymore, right? Why? Because you went down to his level and you spoke firmly but calm. That's assertiveness. Because when you scream, they hear noise, right? And your husband reminds you, they're not even listening to you. Like that's great. Same with us. When someone talks very calmly and very eloquently, it's almost like you put all your concentration and you forget you have ADD and you listen to every word they're saying, right? Because it's like, okay, this guy or this woman means business, right? And it's not you have to do because I tell you. It's we are in this together. And another thing that ladies have a hard time understanding, and I include myself big time, is that we think that we have there's this to-do list before we do something, right? I have to lose weight, I have to earn more money, I have to get my degree, I have to get the kids out of school, I have to, when my kids are older enough, when I have a better relationship with my husband, when I start eating gluten-free, when I do all these things, then I can volunteer 2 weeks or I can help the poor, or I can go help the sick, right? Because there's a lot to do. Our lives are really, really busy, and you know what? That the Pirkei Avot says that sometimes we never get to that time. It says, when I change, then I'll turn. You shouldn't, because ulai lo teshaneh. Maybe you're never going to change. And not only maybe, and when the Pirkei Avot, when Ethical Father says that, what it means is that what each one of us has in our bodies, in our minds, in our pockets, in our homes, this is your toolkit. This is what you, and you need, and me. This is what we need to change our world. You don't need anything else. And you know why? Because if you would need it, you would have it. If you would need to be skinnier, or with dark hair, or with more money, or with more means to do things, you would have it. That would be your mission. But guess what? Hashem created a beautiful, beautiful world, full of different people, with different talents, with different potentials, with different dreams, so you can go out and fulfill them. Because dreams that are left in the drawer, and I tell this to myself every time I'm going to start to write my book. You know how many dreams are buried with people in the grave? It's so sad. I don't want to be there. And I'm sure you don't either. Because we came here to do something. Our life matters. And if we do it with us, we are an example. And you know why we were given the Torah first? Because we not only have to educate, we have to do that turning on the light switch. We have to be a light unto the nations.
That when you say to us, meaning that the Torah was given first to the woman, to the Jewish woman, and then to the men.
Right.
So.
But you know what? My kid says that apparently it was given to the kids.
No, the kids were the guarantors.
My son told me.
Yeah, it's true.
The kids got the Torah.
It's true. Because the women got the Torah and they told Hashem, I promise that I'm going to keep this, and my kids are the guarantors, that they are going to be the ones that follow it, please God. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but they'll come back.
So we have a lot of
We
responsibility.
have a lot of responsibility. Now, why was it given first to the women? It says in the Kabbalah that it was for a tikkun of what happened in the Garden of Eden. Remember that Adam twisted a little bit the commandment because he wanted to be extra careful, because he cried and he said, I want my kids to be tzaddikim. And then Chava said, and I want them to be bal tshuva. I want them to do, the work in the world. We have to perfect the world. So obviously the world is perfect now. We gotta go down, because chet, the sin, is not like we translate it. I feel like the Torah was hijacked by the English vocabulary, like when they say God or sin, or it sounds like church, So no, God is really the word that we use for translation, but that's not a word. There's no God in the Torah. There is the tetragrammaton of the 4 letters, and then 72 combinations. There's Elohim, there's Shin Dalet Yud, there's Hashem, there's all this kind of, but God is really a colloquial word in English. And also sin. What does it mean to sin? Oh, you're bad, you sin, now you go to hell, right? Like, I was teaching a woman a month ago. She, actually, when I told her, because Hashem loves you and you're part of Hashem and you have a part of Hashem in you, it's not that guy in the sky with a white beard waiting to catch you doing something wrong. She's like, it's not? And I was like, no, you're not serious. Like, you're really asking me? She's like, yeah. Every time I do something, I'm like waiting for lightning, for something to happen. I mean, she's 40 years old, she's Israeli, and this is what she's thought all her life. And I really felt for her, because that's a child version of Judaism. That's like really the child version of God. Now we have to upgrade. That God is not a man, first of all, definitely doesn't have a white beard, and is not waiting to catch you, because in Judaism that's not the way it works. It works as a love contract, that when you do something good, you connect. There's an extra connection. When you don't do something good, or you do something the opposite of good, you go back one step. It's kind of like a tango, right? So it's like you go back, and then you have to work harder to get close again. So it's like you separate. That's what it means, a sin. A sin, a chet, means to lower your height, your stature, right? So when Chava did what she did, she actually lowered their stature, so now they have to work hard to go back up. So in that tango of life, women got it first, because Moshe was told, give it first to the women, but talk to them softly so they can listen. And that's how it was, because when women are screamed at, we don't hear. We feel offended, we feel vulnerable, we feel abused, we feel like, why is he talking to me? Like, what did I do wrong, right? Like, that's the first thing. Like, why are you screaming at me? It wasn't me. Like, what's the problem? So no, it wasn't in that mode. It was in the speak to them softly, because they understand. They understand more. And in order to guarantee that we're gonna keep it, we gave our children as guarantors, just like you bring something when you're taking a mortgage, you need a guarantor. That's how it was. They are gonna make sure that I keep the Torah, because our children really keep us going. It's for them. I remember I wasn't religious all my life. When I was 18, I actually committed to this life after a very fast lightning that I had with, no, it wasn't a lightning. Fast, it was a very special encounter with Rebbe Lubavitch. And I don't know, something changed in that encounter, and I went to a place called Machon Chana, which is a yeshiva for girls, just for one class. I promise you that was all my intention. I had no idea of anything of religion or orthodoxy. I wasn't interested at all. But I landed out of my control in Brooklyn, and I was so shocked by what I saw. Like, seriously, it was very much a culture shock, very much. And you know how many times you get in your life this kind of things that you see, and you're like, they're crazy. They are fanatics. They are ultra-Orthodox. They are the brainwashers, right? And that's normal because we want to belong. We want to create a group that it's like us, and whatever's not like us is weird, right? Because that's how it goes. But I said, what's happening here? I got curious. That's another thing that leaders do. They get curious about the team. They get curious about what's happening. They get curious about the world or the issue they're approaching. Because it's not about, if you're not like me, you're not good. It's like, let me get curious about your world. What are you thinking? I'm interested in what you have to say. And so when I was there and I got curious, I went to one class, because actually the Rebbe told me go to Machon Chana. So I went to one class. By divine providence, it was a class of Tanya, and it was about the fight of the animal soul, which is this: pleasure, makeup, clothing, boys, music, ice cream, chocolate, food, whatever it is that you have a temptation to, and the godly soul wanting inspiration to go higher, to make a change in the world, to get the answers for all these questions you have, and they're always fighting. And that class was like, okay, I don't understand a thing this rabbi is saying, seriously, because all the terminology was not in my lexicon, but something clicked, and I said, I want to hear more. And then I came the next day, and then the next day, and then I went into a program for 10 days, and then I called my friends that we were going to go to Boston University, and I said, listen, I'm not going. I broke up with my boyfriend, and I told him, thank you very much, but no thank you, I can't touch boys anymore. And he's like, what? What do you mean you can't touch boys anymore? And I'm like, yeah, I went into a monastery. No, I went into a girls' yeshiva, and then when I came back home, first time I was praying that the boys, because in Venezuela, you know how it is, they don't just, hi, how are you, like, no, it's like a hug and 2 kisses and like a lot of emotion, So I lived in a building that I had a friend, and I was praying that I'm not going to see anyone that I know, because I know how to handle it, right? And then I said, okay, whatever happens, happens. The elevator opens and Danny Tahid comes out, Nati! And he hugs me, and I'm like, okay, no worries, all good, it's fine. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. A year and a half later, I met my husband in a shidduch, actually. He was in a shidduch. Weird, really weird. Yeah. It's like when they told me you can't touch, you can't nothing, and I said, okay, and when? Yes. They're like, after the wedding. I'm like, what? How do I know? And they're like, you know. And I'm like, no, what? Like, you marry a stranger. Amazing. When he proposed after 6 times, I said yes, and I went to the bathroom. I said, give me a minute. I went to the bathroom. I literally had to get up. I was hyperventilating. I think I had a panic attack because I was like, how am I gonna tell my parents that I'm marrying an Israeli? Like, that was the worst part. Because my father's like, please don't marry one of these guys with a beard. I'm like, marry? No, I'm just learning here. So 30 years later, we have 9 children. We have a granddaughter, thank God. So we're still here. He's still here. And we're working hard to create the balance between feminine and masculine. But definitely I can say that throughout my experience with so many women, I'm a coach and I speak already for over 15 years, and I teach for over 20, and I was a makeup artist for 25, and I've been a teacher in our center for 18 years that we're celebrating this year. I can say that we're all leaders as women. We all have it in us. We just have to own our power. We're really afraid of our light. We're afraid of the changes we can do, so we keep small, and we make everyone wear sunglasses so they can't really get shocked by our light. But now it's the time, and we got the Torah first so we can bring it to everyone, Jews and non-Jews alike. And we as Jewish women, we don't only have the responsibility for our homes, because a lot of times, a lot of women confuse homemaking with housekeeping. And it's not the same. Because we think making a home means cooking and cleaning and and changing diapers and cleaning the floor. And yes, listen, it's part of the job, you know what I'm saying? Like, tell me, I live in Israel, I don't have the birds, I don't have the whole thing. I don't. I didn't have it. When all my kids were little, there was a time that I had 7 little children, like from 9 to nursing. And my daughter, she has 1, and she's like, Mom, how did you do it? I'm like, I promise you, I don't know. I really don't know. It was a miracle. I didn't have help. I was working, and I had guests, 15 and 20 guests, every single Shabbat meal, and every single Chag, and I would cook everything, because I'm also, one of the things that a leader doesn't do is that she falls into perfectionism. So I wasn't a great leader, so I was very perfectionist, still working on it. Because if I do it till the end. Like, literally, the only thing was store-bought was the wine. Everything was homemade. Everything was like a 4-course meal. One time my husband got up and he's like, this is a holy table. We have Yud K Vav K salads. We have 26 salads on the table, please. My wife is so holy, such a Kabbalist wife that I have. And I was like, are you serious? But yeah, after that Shabbat, I lowered the amount of salads just because it was outrageous, you know? So it's like, you know, sometimes less is more. When you're more present, when you're more calm, when you're more, you don't have to please everyone. So I've come a really long way, and I hope you do too, and you are also in a better place than you were when you first got married. In a much better place, or at least you're working on it. But why does it say that we are like the holy, you know, high priest of our home? So the high priest was the dirtiest job, you know that? He was like spritzing blood all over, and he had to wash himself all the time, and he was doing the sacrifices and the whole yuck stuff. But then he had the merit to change the fate of the Jewish people. He could intercede for them, because in his holiness, in his way of praying for the people and doing his work, he was doing the holiest work in the world. So in this world, that everything is upside down, that our values are being constantly shattered and constantly threatened, and now we have anti-Semitism and what's happening in America, and unfortunately what's happening in Israel. And maybe I should say for this year that should be in the Ilui Nishmat of my neighbor that today was actually assassinated. He was killed in Israel just in a red light. He was in a red light. He's 32 years old. One of the best friends of my son, Meir Ben Ariella, and he actually was killed, and for nothing, just because he's a Jew, just because he lived in the Shomron. So we are in really hard times. It is a time that we have to stand up, and we have to each one do the best we can for everything and for everyone we can. And everything counts. It's not the big things only that are counted, because we don't know. We don't know. Actually, there's a story of this, someone very famous. He had a son, and he was really sick. And he was so sick that eventually he passed away. But then 15 minutes later, they were able to resuscitate him, and he came back. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, now you can tell us, what did you see? So he was almost like shocked, and he said, Olam afuch raiti. It's a story in the Talmud. I saw an upside down world. Like, that's what he saw when he came back. Because there, he finally saw that all the people were really being honored and being cared for and given credit, like the people who really deserved it in his eyes, in the eyes of all of us, right? Because the world is not behaving in a just manner. Like, people who do good don't always receive good. And people who are good don't always live an easy life. It doesn't go like cause and effect. It's not so direct, and we don't see it so directly. So he said, like, everybody was really kind of being held up to what they deserved, and it was so beautiful. And now it's like everything is so weird. So we are in that time of transition. According to the Tree of Life in Kabbalah, I'm not going to give you a lesson in Kabbalah now, but I just want to say that there's like a whole kind of spheres. There's 10 spheres, and there's the last one. It's called Malchut. Malchut is like the sovereignty, is like the kingdom, the kingship. And that is called the feminine. what is going to happen is that the feminine is going to rise to the level of the crown, which is the tallest, the highest. And what it says is that the woman is going to be the crown to her husband. And the crown is usually higher, right? So what's going to happen is that the femininity, not necessarily the women, but femininity is really going to rise to be the ones who have the highest hierarchy. Because until now, the masculine energy, like I said before, was ruling the world. Masculine energy is linear, it's focused, it's conquering, it's getting there, right? They don't care who's in the middle, they just go straight. That's why men are like lines. That's why under the chuppah we stretch our finger. Because we say, I'm gonna try, really try hard to speak your language. And then he gives you a ring and says, I'm really gonna take a deep breath and understand that you're cycling all the time, and I'm gonna give you a ring, and hopefully it's gonna work out. Seriously, that's why, Kabbalistically, that's why in the chuppah there's a finger that's straight and a line, and then there's the square that is the chuppah. But really it's about that, and then the femininity, what it's gonna do, it's gonna expand, because that's what the feminine energy does. Expands and sees that there should be, and probably, there's another way to fix this. Don't you know sometimes when you're fixing a conflict with your husband, he's like, this is how it has to be, and you're like, oh, there must be another way. And they call us stubborn, but it's not stubbornness. We have that eyesight and we have this hindsight that we can see further, and there must be another way. And we want to find that other way. So I'm telling you all, there must be another way. And each one of us has this power in us to find that other way. And I don't care what the way is, but it has to be different than what it has been until now. It has to be different. We have to bring our feminine energy. And the feminine says, yes, discipline, yes, boundaries, but no more tyranny and no more wars and no more, this is how it has to be, black and white. We have to find a middle ground. Yes, inclusion is part of being a leader. We have to include everyone. Everyone counts. They're all human beings. Do I know what her soul or his soul or their soul came to do in this world? No. Unfortunately, I don't see souls. And I want to say the last thing that I think is huge for leadership, including the first one in our homes. Imagine you can wake up tomorrow and see everyone as if they're trying their best. I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you.